In July 2020, a night in Hollywood Hills ended with gunshots, chaos, and a media frenzy. Tory Lanez was accused of shooting Megan Thee Stallion. But when you look closely at the statements, witness reports, and legal filings, the story is far more complicated than most people think. It all started at a poolside party with Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, Kelsey Harris, and friends. Megan was reportedly drunk, upset, and confrontational. Tensions between her, Tory Lanez, and Kelsey escalated. Witness statements indicate arguments continued as they left the party and got into an SUV. Shots were fired and Megan was hit in the foot.
What happened?
Witness Sean Kelly allegedly said a woman fired first, though he later changed his account at trial.
But no, it didn't.
No?
They shot out of the car?
The windows were open, that's why it sounded like either way. Yeah, I didn't.
No,
we didn't
they
see
were
it.
on my side. The girl opened the door. It was two girls fighting, and then they shot.
Kelsey in her story shifted in interviews and again in court. These contradictions would become critical to the defense later. Initial police statements reportedly noted Megan told authorities she stepped on broken glass and wasn't shot.
You know, then I really cannot go to jail. Okay.
I cannot have that on my image.
Okay. So how did that happen to you?
Glass.
Glass? Where?
Where we were coming from.
Hey, go get a sheet or
See your hands. Show us your hands. Come out with your hands up. Okay? Come out, people passenger, with your hands up. Hands up. Alright, move back to the sound of my voice. Keep your hands up. Move back to the sound of my voice. Move back. Keep going. Keep going. Hey, stop. Move to the left.
The chaos that night laid the groundwork for a case filled with conflicting accounts, witness contradictions, and legal challenges that would continue for years. In 2025, Tory Lanez's legal team released documents and videos on 36hourslater.com, claiming new evidence supports his innocence. The materials allege Tory's DNA was not found on the gun, witness statements conflicted with what was said at trial, and the timeline of events didn't fully match the prosecution's narrative. This alleged evidence became a cornerstone of his appeal. Kelsey and Megan's statements shifted multiple times. Kelsey first said Tory didn't shoot, then provided a version less favorable to him in court. Megan initially said she wasn't shot, later said Tory fired, and expanded her story during trial testimony.
So how did that happen to you?
Glass.
Glass? Where?
Where we were coming from.
Playing in my face, and I'm not gonna let this nigga keep playing in my face either. So, since y'all so worried about it, yes, this nigga Tory shot me. You shot me, and you got your publicists and your people going to these blogs lying and shit.
These contradictions highlight inconsistencies the defense argues are critical. Post-trial, Megan reportedly pursued lawsuits, restraining orders, and depositions against Tory Lanez and others connected to him. Multiple depositions brought witnesses who revised or restated accounts, adding layers of complexity. Tory's team frames this as ongoing pressure and legal maneuvering while the appeal moves forward. The case also involves alleged Brady violations, where the prosecution may have withheld evidence beneficial to the defense. Police notes, lab reports, and witness statements were reportedly not shared, which the defense argues affected the trial's fairness. These violations became central in the oral arguments for Tory's appeal, potentially paving the way for a retrial or release.
Manner that wasn't the way everyone expected her to testify. They entered the entire recording into evidence, but that recording was not entered into evidence while Ms. Harris was giving her testimony. It was entered into evidence on December 16th, And at that point, this is when the defense received that transcript, which we argue not receiving that transcript was a violation of Brady, and it also was a violation of Penal Code 1054.7, Your Honors. And there was also problems in closing arguments, which contained inaccuracies, and it presented the evidence in a way that misconstrued the actual results. Here, I'm specifically talking about the DNA evidence. So we heard the prosecutor close the case by telling the jury, don't be fooled when we hear that Mr. Peterson is excluded. But that's not exactly what the evidence said, which they had in their possession. I feel that statement really misled the jury. It may have confused them. It played on their emotions. And we know that that's not appropriate in closing statements. And in order to really understand the weight of that statement in closing, we need to understand what the evidence was that the district attorney had available to them. So as shown in our brief, in our reply brief, as for the magazine, there were 4 DNA profiles discovered on the magazine, none of which that were Mr. Peterson. Therefore, he was excluded from the magazine. As far as the firearm goes, they also found 4 different samples, one of which was a 90% male contributor. But Mr. Peterson was excluded from being that 90% contributor. Therefore, telling the jury, don't be fooled when you hear he's excluded is just not quite as the evidence showed. And to illustrate this, I want to clarify some key terms in science. So inconclusive, we heard in trial testimony, means it's not positive, it's not negative, it's just a neutral result. But it's not quite as simple as that. Actually, according to the scale of a likelihood ratio, which was in the discovery and presented at trial, likelihood ratios are the percentages. And we did not hear any percentages in Mr. Peterson's case, even though this evidence was available to the prosecution. This evidence was only given to defense upon our expert witness's request. So we did receive this evidence late. So this evidence was not presented in trial. It was presented in the motion for a new trial. But what we can see is that likelihood ratios that are 0.01 and below are considered to be excluded. Likelihood ratios from 10,000 to 999,099 are very strong, very, very strong support to the prosecution that this person did leave DNA on this item. And then above 1 million is very, very strong. We found in the DNA evidence that they labeled Mr. Peterson's LR to be inconclusive and uninformative. And uninformative, according to this scale, is this an LR of 1. Therefore, Mr. Peterson had an LR of 1 in a million that his DNA was on this firearm. And with that fact, it is actually marginally more likely that another member of the African-American population touched this gun over Mr. Peterson, which the jury did not hear. The jury heard the district attorney say, don't be fooled. But there's also no proof that Mr. Peterson did anything to fool anyone about this evidence. He presented his defense. It was their testing. We went off of what their testing said. So I just think that that is a very strong contention. People v. Berryman in 1999, 21 Cal 4th to 50 is a significant California Supreme case that addresses the standard for overturning a conviction due to prosecutorial misconduct. It's a principle. Basically, the key outcome of that case was that we must show that this misconduct materially affected the outcome of the trial. And it did. Because if our jury had heard that Mr. Peterson, maybe 1 in a million, touched the gun, I believe that would have been enough to tip that scale and show reasonable doubt for them to find him not guilty. The jury just didn't hear that. They heard that Mr. Peterson hoped that they would be hoodwinked in the alleged closing arguments. So due to these statements and the misconstruing of the evidence, we feel that that was a very significant issue in the case. The Brady Rule provides that this exculpatory evidence must be provided to defense whether or not a request was made. The suppression of this evidence, it doesn't matter if it's willful or accidental. So long as it was suppressed, then that is the problem right there. And I do have a 3-part test, which is found in the United States Supreme Court in Strickler v. Green, which is 527 U.S. 263 in 1999. They reiterated the 3 components of a Brady violation. The evidence must be favorable to the defendant. Here, yes, the evidence was favorable. Had we gotten that Instagram post earlier, we could have brought that declaration in trial saying Mr. Peterson doesn't run his own social media accounts. Had we gotten the DNA evidence and not had to request that from the prosecution, we could have prepared for a better DNA argument, having the full picture. Had we had the testimony, the transcripts from Ms. Harris's interview, we could have countered that. We could have questioned her on cross about her interview. We also likely did not get fingerprint evidence on time. We did not get, and the fingerprint evidence actually showed that Mr. Peterson's fingerprints, were not found on that weapon. Currently, we are attempting at the Superior Court to have them run the serial number to identify the owner of the weapon, which was not done. The second question under that 3-part analysis with Strickler was it suppressed willfully or accidentally? Yes, this evidence was suppressed. All of these different pieces to where Mr. Medesian said, I feel like every day I wake up and I have an email from either the night before or the morning of saying, oh, we missed giving you this. And very respectfully, I say that. And the final component of this 3-prong test is, would it have changed the outcome of the trial? Yes, absolutely. If our jury could have heard the full picture, the full accurate picture of just the evidence being laid out as it was, without these don't be fooled and, late discovery, I feel that it would have really tipped those scales to reasonable doubt to find that Mr. Peterson was innocent. And that's why today we humbly, humbly pray for exoneration of Mr. Daystar Peterson.
Thank you. Brady violations became a central point in Tory Lanez appeal. The defense argued that key evidence, police notes, lab reports, and witness statements was allegedly withheld, which could have affected the fairness of the trial. Oral arguments focused heavily on these alleged violations, suggesting the conviction may not have considered all critical facts. If judges rule in his favor, it could lead to a retrial or even his release. These inconsistencies strengthen the argument that the case against Tory is far from open and shut. After the trial, Meghan reportedly pursued lawsuits, restraining orders, and multiple depositions against Tory Lanez and associates. Tory's team frames this ongoing legal pressure as part of a larger pattern to maintain scrutiny while his appeal moves forward. Adding industry context, Tory Lanez controlled his own masters. Allegedly, executives like Roc Nation's Desiree Perez have histories of managing artist disputes aggressively. Historical examples, including Michael Jackson and Mariah Carey, show artists facing label threats, surveillance, and career pressure.
And I really want you to hear what I have to say. The tradition of great performers, from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. The story is usually the same, though. You know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same because the companies take advantage of them. You know, being the artist that I am, at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion, and they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing, and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer, myself, would outthink them.
Yeah!
So we can't let them get away with what they're trying to do, because now I'm a free agent, owning half of Sony. So I own half of Sony's, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know. I'm not supposed to say what I'm gonna say right now, but I have to let you in on a secret. Mariah Carey came to me crying. She said to me that this is an evil man. And Michael, this man follows me, she said. He taps her phones. And he's very, very evil, and she doesn't trust him. And he is a horrible human being. And we have to continue our drive until he's terminated.
Tory's team emphasizes these dynamics, suggesting industry tensions may have intersected with the legal situation, complicating public perception while the appeal progresses. If the judges agree, Tory Lanez could be retried or released this year. The case shows how complex legal battles can intersect with public perception and industry dynamics. Tory Lanez's control over his masters, the alleged actions of industry executives, and historical examples from other artists illustrate a broader context for understanding the pressures surrounding the trial. Ultimately, this story isn't just about who fired the gun. It's about process, fairness, and whether the system considered all evidence. The ongoing appeal and the materials released by Tory's legal team force a re-examination of the case. As the judges deliberate, the possibility of Tory Lanez walking free becomes more real, showing how evidence, contradictions, and legal strategy can change outcomes even in high-profile trials.
Hey, sir, how you feeling? You want to know exactly how I'm feeling? Yes, sir. I just stood here in this Los Angeles County and witnessed the worst miscarriage of justice that this world has ever seen. You want to know how I feel? I'll tell you exactly how I feel. I got some names that I want to call. Alex Spiro, Desiree Perez, and the whole wicked system of Rock Nation, including you, Jay-Z.
Yes. Yes.
You who say you rose from the gutter, but you have traded and bartered the souls of young men, and you're still doing it.
Amen.
The only independent witness in this courtroom is a man whose name is Sean Kelly. He came to court, and our attorneys, he would not even shake their hand after he went upstairs with Kathy Ta and Alex Bott.
They met on Saturday before. They met
with our witness. And then the man came back, and I sat in the hallway while he sat with Jody Little, the prosecutor's investigator, who acted so dumb, an intelligent woman who did not want, listen, I've seen so much evidence buried in this, and I know exactly what the public out here will say. Don't talk. You will say, I say this because I'm a father. See, I am a father of thousands around the world. I'm a father of my kids, but a spiritual father to many. And I don't make stupid allegations because I got nothing better to do. You all have been bartering and trading the souls of young black and brown men in this country. And I'm calling on all the umbrellas. I'm calling on everybody in this country to begin to rise up because your sons have been done dirty.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Amen. Real talk. That's right. Real talk, bro.
Over.
Amen.
It's not over.
Real talk,
God does not lose.
Never.
And even though we have come to this juncture, trust me, you will see that our God does not fail.
This is not the
I know
That's right.
that this is wickedness.
That's right.
This district attorney Miss Kathy Tar is the same one that's witnessed or knew that 5 sheriff's deputies in LA County beat up a Spanish man with the last name Carrillo until the guy was beaten to and passed out. ABC News interviewed that man after Eyewitness News, and he said, I thought I would never be here to see my child born, and I would never been able to be around to see my other child rise up. But I'm telling you, this court system is not for justice. It's about wins and losses, and they do dirty to do whatever they can. Jay-Z, let me speak to you.
He has kids.
Rock Nation!
Yes.
Because my son refused to sign a Rock Nation deal with you.
Yes.
And Desiree Perez, you wicked witch, you snitch.
Yes.
You turned on your co-conspirators, all the whole mafia, one of you that was peddling drugs in this country, and you rolled on them before so the Fed could give you a deal.
Now you think you
All of you, trust me. I have intercessors, prayer warriors around the world, and they will not stop until you are cut off.
Yes.
No, we don't shoot you with guns, but we know exactly how to bring you down in the spirit.
That's right, Father. Come on, man.
It's all done.
That's right.